Alrighty, here we go. We're going to continue on in our brochure build for assignment number 5. This is the cover that we created in the previous video. And one thing if I didn't remember to tell you is that to see this the way it would be printed, to lose any of the guides and margins so that you don't want to see them, you just click the W key. And the W key will just make those non-printing guides invisible for the moment. It's a good way of seeing what things look like. Another thing you guys might have noticed that as I zoom in, actually I've already changed it, but if you feel like your images look fuzzy, you want to go up to View, to Display Performance, and yours is typically going to be on a typical display. That's the default. And this is the way Indesign likes to work on a typical display. It doesn't render them fully with full detail, so that you can actually move quickly, more quickly when you have a lot of images being processed in your book or in your brochure. To see them the way you hope that they would be, the way they actually are, you go to High Quality Display. So it's up at the top, it's View, Display Performance, High Quality Display, and if you just notice that, they turn from being kind of pixelated into perfectly nice, clean images. If you keep it on high quality display, it could slow your computer down a little bit, but it's up to you. Okay, so now I have zoomed out. We have our Pages panel, and we're going to work on page number 2. I'm going to put the margins back on because I always design with them on. You always should be paying attention to the margin area because everything should be consistent throughout your document. On this page 2, it needs to be a page with a bunch of text about the company, whether it's a letter from the CEO, if you can find one on Google, or an article about the company that you've picked, whatever you want, but we want to have a significant amount of text to fill this page up. So I am going to right away go over to my text, which I've actually put in Microsoft Word. To do that, I'm just going to pull my window back. There's my folder. There's my folder of Word documents, and I'm going to click on the one I've called Joe Malone Text. And it will open in Word, and I am just going to take my cursor in Word and just grab the part, all of the elements I need. Where it says write your own headline, I'm not grabbing that. Command C. So I'm copying that. I'm going to minimize Word. I'm going back to InDesign. I'm going to make my window big again by just going on the bottom here. And I'm right away going to stick this on my document so that I don't have to go back and forth from Word. This is just the way I do it. So I'm going to go into my T tool by going to T, into my type tool. And remember the stuff on the side, the light gray parts to the right and left, even the bottom and the top of your pages, do not print, but you can access them all the time. So I'm just pulling out a box by just dragging my cursor, and then I'm going to paste, Command or Control V, and there is all the text that I've pasted in. It is going to paste in as the default, which in my case is Gotham, which you guys don't have. Yours is probably going to be Minion Pro, and it'll probably be 12 point. You guys, it's up to you and what your computer's on. Now I could actually have I could just probably pull this entire box over here. But if you want to just always have duplicates so you don't have to do things twice, and you're worried about your workflow, it's up to you. I'm beginning to think that this one's going to be pretty simple. So I'm going to take my black arrow tool. I'm going to take the whole box, place it on that page 2, and I'm just making sure that my box is aligning. In other words, I'm punching it to the guides, to the right and left guides there. And what I want to do is also, I'm not going to bring it up too tall. I think what I'll do, since this is, I think these 2 lines at the top are the headline, I'm actually going to take those by selecting them, and I'm going to cut them, which means it's just like in Word. If you cut, it's Command X, and I'm going to go over to my side panel. Again, I'm still in the T tool, pulling out a box and just pasting so that I have those separate from the actual body copy. That's what a lot of text is often called, body copy. So you can see you can move your boxes around. Remember, if if you move it down, think of it like a window shade. You just pull it in from the middle. Don't pull it from the sides because you've got it nicely aligned with the margins. And what we want to do, though, is we don't want this to be one giant, big type box like this. It's very hard to read. It is not a good thing. So we're going to actually convert this text frame into a text frame with columns. If you look at any magazine, any book, most of the time there are columns of type. It helps the eye navigate the type, the text. So there's a lot of different ways to get to the column controls. The easiest way, in my opinion, is to click on I'm clicked on the type frame. I'm going to go up here. Notice what this looks like. I'm up in the options control panel up at the top, and there is this icon that looks like a square with two different bisecting lines. It always is going to say number 1 as a default next to it, and I'm just going to click on that number 1 up to 2. And if you kept on going, it would go to 3. And notice what's happening to the type frame. It's converting columns so that the type is flowing from one column into a next. Now, obviously, you would never want it to look like that with 4 columns. It's impossible to read, and there's pretty much only one, not even a full word on a column. So for this one, it's a very small document. We're going to make it 2 columns, and that's good. And then this measurement below here, and you can see by the little icon if you look at it, it's called the gutter control. And the gutter is this space in here, in between the columns. It's very important. You want it to make sure that it is not so small that you can't see the type, where the type is breaking. You want it to always have some space. I think that probably for this one, 0.1875 is about right. I want you to start looking at these things and seeing. You also want to pull your text box down so that it aligns on that margin, that bottom margin. So this is the stuff you have to just kind of play with a little bit. Now, it's all going to change, though, because of why? Well, for one thing, we have overset. So let me zoom in. The little red square with the check mark is right here, is the overset valve, we call it. And what that means is that it's saying the type's not fitting in this box, in this frame. You're missing a bunch of type. It's not going to print. So what you can do is you can, with the black arrow tool, is click on that red box. And when you click, you have to click onto it until you see your cursor load in the first couple of lines of type, if you notice. And then go over to your non-printing area, your pasteboard, and just drag out a box. And that's going to tell you, that's going to be a great way for you to know when you're fitting and when you're not fitting. And usually you don't fit right off the bat, right? And so you can tell that if I went way up here, I have lots of room here, but I want room for a headline. So these are all ways to just navigate the text. Now, I'm going to let it have some overset for right now, because there's a lot more things that have to happen on this page. One of those is that we're going to grab a photograph of the CEO of the company and stick that right in the middle of this text. So I'm going to say that it's going to be a square, and I'm going to go to my frame tool, and maybe I'll actually say that it's going to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and I'm just randomly saying this. Sometimes it's just the way I hope it'll work. It creates a frame. I'm sticking it right in the middle. See those smart guides? Now, there's nothing going on yet. There's nothing in this picture. It's got the X, so I'm going to immediately go to Control Command D, place my image. My image is Joe Malone CEO 300. I'm going to place it in there. And you can see that she doesn't fit. She's literally a much bigger image. If I click on the donut, you can see, oh, look, oh, not only is she much, much bigger, but she's horizontal. So I can do a bunch of things. Number one, I might just go up to my scaling, take it down to 50%. Again, you want to go in with the brown box and see if that will fit. And then maybe just up a little bit. Make sure that the proportion link is intact so that you're not doing anything crazy. One thing that you guys should know, when you move the box with the black arrow tool, you want to not hit that donut, what I call the donut. You want to move it outside of there. If by chance you have been on the donut or in the white arrow tool and you think you can now scale, it will completely mess up the image. See how it can get distorted? You never, 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 never want to do that. And you can't really correct it by keep on pulling it out, even though that might look right. You want to go up here, and this is the scaling of the image within the box, and you're going to want to just click the proportion tool or make it 51% and click it so that both numbers are the same. Do you understand that? So that both this and this are the same percentage. So that makes it a proportionately scaled image. Okay, I'm kind of liking that. I actually kind of like her coming off the side. Again, if I didn't, I could move her around. Maybe it's kind of fun off the side. But if it's not filling the box, you got to be really careful. So notice what's happening. If this is pretty tight to the top and the bottom, but it seems okay. So we have an image placed in there. It's on the text, and what's it doing? It's obscuring the text underneath it, correct? So now we are going to apply what's called a text wrap. One of the most important things in InDesign in terms of publishing. And what text wrap does is it puts a force field on this frame of this photograph. And it could just be a box if you wanted, but in this case, it's a frame, and you tell the force field how far away it's going to push the type. And we always want to have a nice amount of what's called breathing room, so that there's a nice amount of white space so the eye can see the type, see the image, and not get confused. To get to the text wrap panel, there's a couple ways of doing it. One way is Control, Alt, or Option W, and it brings up the panel. At least it does on the PCs. It doesn't seem to want to do it on my computer. I don't know why. But if you want to just do it manually, I'm going to click here. Actually, you don't even have to have that on. If you click on the image and then you click up here, this is where I want you to look. Up to the right of the FX, there are 4 different icons. The first one, if you hover over it, says no text wrap. That's where we're at right now. We want to click on the next one, which is the wrap around the bounding box. Click on that, and it moves some of it along, but it's not even. So what we want to do is we want to get the text wrap control panel up there. If you can't get the keyboard shortcut to work, which I don't know why it doesn't on mine, just go from Window to text wrap, and up comes a little panel. We're going to have to go find it, and it will tell you what's happening. So while that image box, that image container is selected with the black arrow, in other words, there's a blue bounding box, you can click on any of these numbers here, especially when you want to, for right now, let's just do it with the proportion chain link intact. It doesn't have an X through it. Just go one at a time. Just click the little arrow. And right now that's putting I think that's an 1/8 of an inch evenly around the entire image, and it's pushing the type that much. Then you've got a perfect text wrap.